Welcome to another episode of AWS Shilpa's Tech Skills North America. We spotlight female leaders in our episode and who are driving innovation in the cloud and share their stories, insights, and expertise for us. I also have Candyce Bohannon with me joining this live show. Thank you for joining, Candyce.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Awesome. In the last couple of episodes, we have talked so much about the trends and the real world examples of generative AI helping our industries. And I think it's really important because we have already started seeing some of the great impact. And today we'll be showcasing an amazing story from AppFolio. They streamline and automate real estate management, and we will dive deep into how they were able to transform the routine property management tasks. Candice, anything you would like to add before we kick off?
Yeah, I think this is a really cool area, and I am actually in the process of moving. So this is something that I've actually experienced myself. Like I was able to, I was setting up a showing at an apartment nearby, and I was texting and like chatting with an agent, but I didn't realize that it was an AI agent, and for a little while, so I was trying to set up my viewing and things like that, and it's responding in a very like human like way. But then I asked it some question that must have been outside of its script, and it wasn't as human like anymore. But I've experienced some of this myself, and I think that it's a really cool way to kind of keep your customers with the experience that they are expecting to have with that very prompt response, but then you don't actually have to manage and answer all, like you as the person on the other side, you don't have to be on top of all of those text messages all the time, and you can kind of get a digest from what the AI agent has done. So I think this is a really cool area, just like lots of them, ripe for some AI innovation. And I think this interview is really cool too.
Awesome. Yeah, totally agree. So just to give some context, so recently me and our other teammate Shilpa Bondale, solution architect from AWS as well, we had a pleasure of meeting with Cat Allday. She is a VP of Product Management at AppFolio, and I'm so much excited to share our conversation with you. So let's dive into it. Thank you so much for joining AWS Shilpa's Tech Skills, another episode. And my name is Jigna. You might have seen me before. I also have my fellow solution architect Shilpa Bondale from AWS as well. And we have a very special guest today, Cat Allday from AppFolio. Cat, do you mind giving a quick introduction and what you do at AppFolio?
Great. Well, thank you for having me. So like Jigna said, my name is Cat Allday, and I am a Vice President of Product Management here at AppFolio. And AppFolio is a software company that builds solutions for the real estate industry. And I have been focusing on our AI products for the last about 5 years now. And I'm very excited to share how we think about AI in the property management and real estate industry, as well as how we're using this technology to solve problems for our customers.
Yeah, and AppFolio has been in the news for your generative AI feature released in the property management platform RealmX. So tell us, Kat, a little bit more. How did the generative AI journey start at AppFolio?
Yeah, so we actually started thinking about AI before generative AI. And the things that we did kind of leading up to November of 2023, I think really set us up to take advantage of this technology. So in 2019, we acquired a company called Dynasty, and they had a machine learning based digital leasing agent. So if you think about when you go to rent an apartment and you see a billboard or a sign with a number on it, you would call that number to see if you could learn about the apartment. And this was a digital leasing agent that would answer questions about the units that were for rent and try to get you scheduled for an appointment to come view the apartment. So that was its job. And it used traditional machine learning. But that was our first foray into AI. So we acquired this team. We were already trying to build some AI tools internally, but that was really sort of the springboard. And then in 2020, we said very specifically, hey, we're going to build AI products because we knew that this was a technology wave we did not want to miss. And so we started building some additional products leveraging traditional machine learning. And then in 2022, we said, we've got enough momentum around AI. We want to make sure that we're thinking about this from a platform perspective. How do we build AI tools across our entire product suite in an efficient way? And like, let's not rebuild everything. Let's figure out how to reuse. And so we launched what we called our AI factory. And this was really a team of people who are really focused on building a platform so that other engineers in the company could quickly build on to these onto their features, leveraging this technology. So when generative AI came around, we already had a lot of best practices in place. We had hired team members who understood traditional machine learning and had already built this platform that allowed us to just adopt generative AI very, very quick. So we recognized, hey, we do not want to miss this train. And we started thinking very early on how we could apply generative AI to the problems we were already solving. And then what new problems could we solve with that technology? And one of the things we did is we had a hack day and really like allowed our engineers to like play with this technology. And we got a lot of really great ideas just coming out of that from an innovation perspective.
That makes sense. You mentioned that you were already positioned with machine learning, so you had the teams built, and generative AI sounded like the next best move. Can you give us an example as to how generative AI has transformed a routine property management task? For example, lease agreements or viewing of the property. How does it make the process more efficient?
Yeah. So one of the things that really helps is what I consider bulk communication. So if you're a property manager and you have the need to communicate with everybody in a building, that might be 500 residents. In order to send that communication the old way, you would have to go in and like identify every resident and either send them an email, print them a letter and put it on their door. It was a very manual process. And with RealmX, leveraging generative AI, we can basically, through a like assistant window, like a co-pilot window almost, you could ask the technology, hey, I need to send a communication to every resident that lives in this building or this set of buildings. And it goes and it finds all those people in the database. And then you can craft a communication to it. And you say, hey, I want to send them a text letting them know the water is going to be turned off for the next 8 hours. And it will help using generative AI. It'll craft the message telling them, you can change the tone if you like. And then you're able to send that and it sends them all an SMS message. So what used to take hours now takes, just a few minutes. So that's one example that's used very often in our system today, those sort of like big communications. If you think about the leasing experience, being able to offload some of the inbound inquiry to a generative AI agent is actually like super powerful. So the leasing agent doesn't want to answer the same question over and over again, like, do you have a pet policy? And what's the security deposit requirement? All that can be managed through generative AI, and it can answer the questions, and you really free up your leasing agents to do the hard work of actually like selling a resident on the unit versus just answering those inbound inquiries.
Okay. That makes sense.
So I had a quick question there. So I know, property management has been traditionally slow, I would say, in adopting technology, right? So can you tell me, what cultural or maybe structural shifts you have observed since introducing, AI-driven solutions, like, for example, AppFolio RealmX?
Yeah, you're right. This is an industry that tends to be a little slower. They have very standard operating procedures. They're used to doing things a certain way. And they really care about the relationship that they have with their residents. And AI feels sometimes like it could be impersonal. And so I think that has definitely been a barrier that we've had to overcome. And so the way we've really helped our customers understand the value that AI can bring is about giving them back more time to go build those relationships and have those face-to-face interactions, and let the AI do the more routine or mundane activities. And I think that has helped them kind of like, if they can see the time savings that they get and they can redirect their teams to work on more important things, I think that's been something that's been really helpful. But it's not been, you have to show it to them. You have to really prove that you can do that and deliver that. One of the things that we saw a few years ago is that property managers and these companies were really trying to figure out how to do more with less. They were having a hard time, labor shortages. They were having a hard time filling these positions. There was a lot of turnover in the industry, and they were already outsourcing some activities. And they may have been outsourcing to the Philippines or other places. And AI is actually a perfect replacement for that type of outsourcing. And so that was an easy way for us to kind of like give some use cases where they were already thinking about outsourcing. So outsourcing to technology wasn't that big of a leap. But I do think where we are seeing people now with generative AI is that they're using it in other parts of their life outside of work. And so they're familiar with it, and it is a little bit easier to get them to try it. And we've done a lot to make it really easy in the product to understand the value you're going to derive by using RealmX. And so I think that's helped. The user experience is you have to think about how do you enable a user to not be afraid to use the technology. And I think we've done a really good job of making RealmX pretty easy. And we share prompts, and we encourage people to like try it. And we don't actually take any actions. They actually still have to hit the button, right? And say, I actually want to do this thing. And I think that helps build trust.
Makes sense. Kat, I want to go back to October 2024. In your Future conference, it was emphasized that AppFolio wanted to employ the large language models that were best fit for the respective use cases.
Yeah.
And you wanted to be almost model agnostic. Mm-hmm. What was the reason for choosing Amazon Bedrock? Was this ability to pick and choose models one of the reasons? Were there any other considerations behind selecting Amazon Bedrock?
Yeah, we always wanted to be model agnostic. It was important for us to say, hey, we want to be able to apply the right model to the right job. And when we were exploring a lot of models in the early days, we would see accuracy or performance, or even being able to build certain guardrails. And those were things that were really important to us. We want to make sure that the models that we use understand the real estate industry and sort of the parameters that we would want our customers to interact with. And so we were building through our AI factory, we were thinking about how do we be able to switch out models on the fly if we needed to. And when Bedrock came around, it was definitely a no-brainer for us because you guys are going to enable us to sort of meet that strategy. And so we've been really pleased partnering with you guys so far.
Thank you. And how do you go about selecting a particular model? I'm sure accuracy and latency play a part. Is modality also one of the thing that you look for? Can you give us an example? Selecting model for a modality.
Yeah, so we definitely do a lot of side-by-side testing where we'll run two models side by side, and we'll look at things like performance and latency, obviously, accuracy. But one thing we also look at is how well the users interact with that particular model. So, for example, we have a part of our product where it helps craft a message that you're going to send to somebody. So let's say you're having an interaction with a resident. It will provide you with like, hey, here's something you might want to say in response to this message. And what we'll notice is if people actually accept the recommendation versus whether they edit the recommendation. And there are definitely models that perform better. And so it's matched to the tone, or it understands the scenario better. And so those ones we tend to, that is one of the criteria for choosing one model over the other for a specific use cases. Are the end users more likely to accept the recommendation of the model?
Makes sense. And you actually touched about this a little bit ago. You're now building agentic workflows. Can we dive a little bit more deep into agentic workflows? You gave an example of the email responses. Can we dive a little bit deeper into that one?
Yeah, so we are playing with agentic, workflows right now. We have a feature called flows, which allows a business to sort of codify their operation. And today, what it does is it allows them to say, hey, I'm going to send, when the workflow hits a certain state, I'm going to send it to, this employee who will take action. We believe that we can have agents as that are assignees for certain functions, right? So if, and I think communication is a great example. You kind of know what, there's a set of rules that the agent can use. We think that there are going to be things around like a lease renewal, for example, being able to apply an agent to that. And a lease renewal is, there's a couple of criteria that you look at when you think about renewing a lease. One, how happy is the resident? So is there some scoring that you've done to understand, like, have they been having all their maintenance requests completed in a timely fashion? Do you have a lot of communication with that resident? Are they happy? Are they likely to renew? And should you offer them a special offer to renew? And I think based on a set of rules, you could apply an agent into that workflow to, hey, 90 days before renewal, send out a communication and start getting interest and engagement with that resident, so that when it's time to actually send them a new lease, you've already done all that legwork through the agent.
Great. Yeah, that's a great use case. Thank you for sharing that.
I totally agree. I actually want to get your perspective about, broader adoption of AI as well. If I ask, like, looking forward, looking beyond basically for your current role, what aspiration projects or social challenges do you hope to address through AI in the coming decades?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think work is going to change, right? The way we all engage with technology. And how do I find a good balance in my life? We're inundated with so much information. I think, leveraging AI to help me balance my time, not only professionally, but personally, I think is going to be something that I'm going to be looking for more. And then as we think about, how the job market is shifting, how do we leverage AI to help with upskilling, training new skills, like, I think more work is going to become more service focused, right? Again, that human to human connection. And so if you're freeing me up from having to do things that maybe I don't have the skill to do today, but I'm a great relationship builder. Like, I think that is going to be something that will be really, really valuable. I think nobody really wants to do like meaningless data entry. It feels like I think that those are things that I think AI will help with. But I do think where I'm very excited where this technology is going personally is around environmental and conservation work. That's something that I care deeply about. And I think that, AI, just like in the biosciences and some of these other fields, are able to see patterns that will help advance, I think the work that's being done in the environmental and then conservation side. So from a societal standpoint, that's something that is really important to me. And I think AI is going to be a big player there.
No, that's such a great thing that you shared. Thank you so much. I know, your journey has been like such an inspiration for us. Uh, is there any message or advice, you would like to give to share it with young women who aspire to be in the technology role or leadership role, such as yourself?
I did not start my career in technology, and my education was not technology based initially. So I was a theater major in college when I first went to school. Realized fairly quickly that I didn't like rejection, and so I started thinking about what else I could do. Because when you go to every audition and they say no, you're like, okay, this is not what I want. So I ended up getting a business degree. And then from there, I sort of fell into technology. I went to work for a software company, sort of as a frontline technical support person, like many, many years ago. And I found that I had an aptitude for technology. I really loved solving problems. And I love building things. There's something about crafting something from an idea and then seeing it actually in the hands of end users that's really exciting. And in my career, I've made lots of lateral moves. It hasn't been like a straight career ladder trajectory. I've been on both the strategy side, operations side, and I would say my advice is, don't be afraid to try something new and hard. I think you'll be surprised at your own capabilities. I think we sometimes box ourselves in thinking that, oh, I have to follow this path in my career. And I can say that there's no path that's predetermined. You get to sort of determine your path. And so I would tell somebody who's maybe not technical, roll your sleeves up and get your hands dirty and just see what you're capable of. And I think you might be surprised. And then find great mentors and people that you can connect with and ask for advice. I've been very lucky in my career. I've worked with several women that I have leveraged throughout my career to provide me with guidance or just be a sounding board. Sometimes I just need somebody to talk to. Like, have you ever experienced this? How did you handle it?
Yeah.
And I definitely think that is some great advice. And then if you are in a position where you can be that person to someone else, you got to pay it forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. And I'll just add one thing, like lot of time, what we are feeling, what we are going through, we don't share it. But the truth is, I think everyone is also going through the same thing. So I think just sharing it, it makes it so much better, and like just gets us faster to find the solution for it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing your insights. This has been really amazing. Talking to you, and also learning so much about AppFolio as well. Uh, I just want to thank you once again for being with us and being a part of this episode.
Great. Thank you. I've enjoyed our conversation today.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Kat.
Awesome.
So I was part of that conversation, so I'll go second. But Candice, what did you think?
I really liked that. I liked Kat's approach to it. I really liked, my favorite thing probably is how she kept saying, like, yeah, AI is cool, but this is all about humans, right? So let's make humans' lives easier. Let's remove some of that like boring routine stuff that they have to do every single day and work on the stuff that humans are good at, like building relationships. So, she talked a lot about that, which I thought was very interesting. And I also really liked how she kept the humans in the loop to evaluate the model, talking about like, are they accepting the recommendations and things like that. And so you're not asking the humans to do anything extra, but you're getting the feedback from them and using that in your decision process. So I just really liked her humans always as the center of her AI approach. I thought that was really cool.
Yep, I 100% agree with that. I also like the way she mentioned about like her career journey, like how she loved getting into the technology, even though she didn't originally start with it. So I think she made a really good point as well, like how we should not be afraid to do something new. I think we all need that. we definitely need that learning. So yeah, awesome.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I love those stories when like you don't start as a computer science major, like a theater major. I like those stories. I started as a theater major or a music major, and I just found out that I was good at this. So I think it's really cool to see how people kind of evolve from the time they're 20, 18 or 20, like entering high school, and then what they actually end up doing. And she's a great example of that.
100%.
Nice. Well, I think, unless there's anything else to say, I think that kind of concludes our episode for today. Right, Jigna? Anything else to add?
No, I think we're good.
Great. Well, I thought this was very cool. I hope that our viewers kind of learned something about using AI in a very human-centric way so that you can make your life a bit easier. I love being on the show with you all the time, Jigna. I hope that all of you viewers who are watching today like and subscribe our YouTube channel and continue supporting us. If you have any suggestions for things that you want to see, please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn or however you feel like getting in touch with us. And really thank everyone for watching today, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye.